What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Heroes Hearth Warcraft 3. My name is Kendric, and I am glad to present to you yet another replay analysis here on the Kendric Series. It's great to have you back, guys, and today we've got a really fine specialty to offer to you because we have the Swedish human legend known as ThorZaIN duking it out against a Russian player named THEGREATWALL, playing the Undeads here. So a classic matchup, really the most classic that you can find in the whole of Warcraft, humans versus undead. And boy, has that matchup changed and shifted over the years. So I can't wait to see what ThorZaIN's approach towards this matchup is. Because traditionally speaking, undeads have only so many possibilities to divert and change their playstyle because they're always dependent on the Death Knight. So the question for undeads kind of is it a ghoul opening? Is it a fiend opening? Every now and then, you know, certain players like to turn it up or switch it up with a Dreadlord first, fast expansion, or something along those lines. But usually, in 90% of the games, we still see the good old Death Knight. However, with the humans, we can no longer be that certain. Is it going to be a Mountain King first? Depends on the map. Is it going to be Riflemen? Is it going to be footies right into casters? ThorZaIN goes for the Archmage. Very traditional, very standard. And ThorZaIN in particular, we have to highlight, for a long time used to be a big fan of Riflemen, even mixing in a Paladin every now and then. So let's see what the Swedish magician has to offer this time. THEGREATWALL, he's sending over a Scouting Acolyte, of course, with the very popular early... Oh, no way. No way. I actually... How to make the streamer slash commentator look silly on the video. THEGREATWALL, I'm loving it. As I say it often, I love to be wrong, and I love to be proven wrong when players switch it up. And a Crypt Lord first, maybe even into fast expansion with Beetles, could be what we're seeing from the Russian player here. The question is ThorZaIN going to expect anything like it? Have they met on ladder before? Have they met on other occasions before? Because a Crypt Lord first, summoning the Beetle Lord himself, is definitely something you normally don't expect. Unless you know the player, you know, the player that you're playing up against is kind of known for it. However, ThorZaIN doesn't really overreact. He doesn't really send early aggression into the opponent's space. He, of course, needs to confirm the identity of the undead hero first. So he's going for a very safe opening here and goes for the first creep camp. No biggie. Human players, they want to creep their Archmage up to level 2 and 3 as fast as possible. Really get this early game monster up online. The mana regeneration on the aura is so important. Level 2 water elementals, they just shriek and make you just so much more efficient at creeping. And here we go. Crypt Lord fast expansion. Guys, I did not watch this video before, by the way. I always go into these replays blindly, so I do not know what the players are up to. But of course, let's talk about this a little bit more. So undeads are not necessarily known to be the most efficient and the most dangerous race when it comes to fast expanding, simply because they require the ghouls to collect lumber, and if they don't do that, then they might actually stay on tier 1 for a long time. And of course, with the way undead expansions work, they're a little bit more susceptible to getting cancelled and harassed. However, the Crypt Lord, summoning early beetles similar to the Skeleton Warriors from the Rod of Necromancy, they provide a lot of extra meat shield, you know? So the weak ghouls early don't get focused as much, and the creeps basically get taken down more quickly. Depending on the camp, of course, with the normal damage, that might go faster or slower. Oh my goodness, we're having attempted footments around here. Almost. The THEGREATWALL is able to close it out, but with all those low size units, it's not that easy, actually. He could try to go for it again. This footman is walking on dangerous territory right now. Confirms the identity of this fast expansion, however. Sees the first cigarette and the second one to go down very soon. Now, the question remains, what is the THEGREATWALL going to do after? Are we going to see Impale? Are we going to see Armor? I'm heavily leaning towards an Impale, because Continuous Armor is... I don't want to say one of the worst abilities in the game, but it's pretty bad if you compare it to items like Ring of Protections, you know. It offers the same protection amount and a little bit of damage return, so it's usually considered to be pretty bad. Now we see the human aggression coming in, though, from ThorZaIN, whose Archmage is level 3 already, so these level 2 water elementals are going to hit like a wet truck. Alright, takes that first ghoul down, but of course the sheer number of melee units here coming in from the beetles and the skeletons from the THEGREATWALL is something to be respected. More reinforcements coming in from the undead main, and they're trying to really chase down those footies. However, these two water elementals are a problem. He gets a footman kill. That means level 2 for the Crypt Lord. And we have Impale online. Now, this additional AoE damage and stun can be very useful. We see mercenaries, by the way, in the fray for ThorZaIN as well. The Dispel against Beetles, so useful. The Berserker adding so much additional DPS into this early army. Fantastic. However, the defenses stand for the Great Wall. 2 Nerubian towers, adding tons of control over this fight for the undead player. And he saves those ghouls quite nicely. Keep in mind that every beetle, of course, will provide a little bit of extra experience to the Archmage, so you can't just let those little buggers die over and over again if you want to avoid the enemy heroes going out of control. Now we have more damage, and just look at those wall elementals, and that is exactly why I mentioned earlier that fast creeping on the Archmage is of the essence. Now, what is Great Wall left to do with here? He's trying to go after the hero a little bit. The first wall elemental is going to fall, and then the Archmage will be out of mana for once. And I think he is safe for now. He has forced the Archmage to run away, who, by the way, found a Scourge Bone Chimes, which is fantastic early game sustain for the footies. Really gives them an edge over all the units that the Undead player has to offer. And let's take a look at the main base. As I said earlier, because of all the ghouls fighting against the human all the time, the Great Wall has a couple of problems lumber-wise. He's very dry in lumber indeed. So instead of going for additional Ziggurats, which cost additional lumber, he now goes for another crypt to increase his supply cap. So, feels good. He has a lot of golds, obviously, because of this expansion, but a little bit low on lumber, so he builds one Necropolis here, creating another retreat point as well with a TP later, and another crypt even in the main base. Once again, to save lumber. Pretty smart. Now, of course, ThorZaIN, he has done a little bit of damage, he has killed a bunch of units, and level 4 in the Archmage is here as a result. He goes for another creep camp, makes sure he gets shop control, can buy items for Mountain King later on, who finds a greater mana, by the way. This is probably the best item he could have hoped for. The Mountain King, of course, later on, I would be very surprised if we don't see Clap here. And on the level 2, I mean, he's just gonna melt those ghouls and beetles like there was no tomorrow. He's gonna eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner combined. So plentiful is his meal going to be if he goes Clap. However, he decides to hold on his level 2 talent for now. And once again, these 2 towers are standing. Tier 2 tech nowhere near to be found. Now we see a Fiend transition coming in for the Great Wall, who realizes that at the very latest with the arrival of the Mountain King, the time for ghouls is over, basically. However, we also have ranged units now in the mix for ThorZaIN, who adds some riflemen in here. Just an illusion. No worries here. And what is the Great Wall trying to accomplish here? He has 1 Acolyte, 1 Ghoul, and Skellies. I think it was just a mismanagement of his units there. I don't think this serves any particular purpose. Probably just forgot about those units. So far, of course, also 1 hero only because of tier 1 for the Undead player. Nice micro here with the Nerubian towers, by the way, selecting and picking the riflemen first. And now, of course, ThorZaIN has moved himself into very dangerous territory. This is almost a point of no return. Clap, by the way, coming in as expected. But this is almost a point of no return where, with those permanent slows coming in from the Nerub towers, he can't just walk out of there just like that anymore. And the Mountain King is in trouble. The TP was transferred over, of course, in time, so he just pieces out. The damage has been done for ThorZaIN, but I think he wanted to do a little bit more here. I just can't help but feel that, sure, killing Acolytes is fine, but he also lost a couple of units himself here. And the Mountain King is low, the healing has to be invested, and keep in mind, this is still a 2-base undead. You don't want to take these unfavorable traits in terms of units all the time when you're up against a 2-base opponent, whose lumber count, by the way, is looking much better now that he has ghouls in the base. He probably should have 3 or 4 ghouls, though, to compensate, unless he isn't even planning on going tier 2. I mean, we could see some crazy world, a crazy game in which the Great Wall doesn't even want to go tier 2 and just goes for mass tier 1 units now, ghouls and fiends, right? I mean, it is possible. And then you have a 1 hero strat with the Crypt Lord, who has plenty of CC and additional units with the Beetles too. Found a nice item, by the way, the Lionhorn of Stormwind, of course. Super good. Alright, so what is the Russian player coming up with here right now? We see a counter expansion from ThorZaIN. Makes a lot of sense in my opinion. If you can't destroy the opponent's expansion, build one your own, you know, especially when your army looks good and your heroes look even better. He has shop control for sure. He's going to buy Dust of Appearance. Interesting. Probably against burrowed fiends and burrowed beetles, so he can always chase the units down that he weakened prior. And his expansion comes along nicely. He builds 2 Arcane Towers relatively far into the Undead's face if he wanted to harass and attack this location. But now we see a tier 2 tech coming in. It just took a little bit longer. I like the additional Spirit Tower that he has in his main base, just in case the Archmage and Mountain King try to harass the main for once. And also, of course, additional defenses being added towards the expansion. Now, when you're the Undead player in this situation, where you have superior economy, but a slightly weaker army and heroes, you have to worry about two things, especially when you scout this expansion. You have to be worried about siege workshop units, like siege tanks, I think are definitely a possibility. Early knights you have to be wary of, so I think I like these additional towers. Of course, that slows down additional reinforcement in terms of units, but it makes your base a little bit safer to a tank drive-by and to knights just trying to melt down your buildings in a base race, potentially. So I think it's a good addition. I probably would have done the same myself. Double crypts here, of course. Lost a couple of units. Once again, I'm not a big fan of the lack of lumber income for the Great Wall. I'm not sure where exactly we have the ghouls at the moment. The ghouls are actually harassing the expansion of the human player and forces out a TP. I would say this is pretty much a win for the Great Wall in terms of resources and time bought for this. However, once again, the lumber deficit cannot be overestimated. And overstressed, I really feel like. This cripples his reinforcements so much. And only now does he build additional ghouls coming in. This is really a problem for the Undead player at this point, whereas ThorZaIN looks pretty good in that regard. You know, he defended his expansion. He's going for casters, by the way. And builds a lumber mill right now, so no tanks, no knights coming in anytime soon. I think he just wants to get a healthy army size. Tomb of Retraining, by the way. So he might go for Blizzard, realizing that against this mass number of tier 1 units for the Undead player, and the towers most importantly, he needs the AoE damage more than he needs the water alleys. Maybe he also keeps it for later, just in case. So he's quite flexible as to how he wants to design and lay out his Archmage right now. Mountain King level 3, by the way. Is it going to be Clap level 2? No, Stormbolt level 2. And are we going to see a secondary hero coming in for the Undead? When is that going to happen? Did he lose his altar, by the way, earlier? I think he might have lost his altar earlier to ThorZaIN's attack. That's interesting. I didn't even see that. In the meantime, we also see Gargoyles, of course, coming in. Tried a harass attempt here with a Zeppelin, but that one actually failed. Had to retreat. Man, there's a lot of stuff going on in this game. Lumber. I like the addition of a Shredder. I really think that's exactly what the Great Wall needed. So he's putting units back into the Zeppelin. Just basically to move around the map a little bit more safely. Because at any given point, if the Great Wall runs into ThorZaIN's army, he's going to get clapped and smacked off the map. So the Zeppelin allows him a little bit more sneakiness, you know, and stealthiness on the map. Additional mercenaries, by the way, and gargoyles from the Great Wall. He's having a little something of everything, really. And tries to just divert and distract ThorZaIN and maybe get some economic damage done. And we see a workshop, by the way, finally being added. Probably flying machines are attempted against the gargoyles, and maybe later on some tanks too. And I like what ThorZaIN is doing, quite frankly. He's just pimping up that Mountain King even more, who's now level 4. He gets a big fat item. Helm of Valor, not the best, unfortunately, for him. And now we see the undead aggression with mercenaries, beetles, skeletons, gargoyles, you name it, the Great Wall's got it. And just tries to really just divert and distract ThorZaIN's attention from his own base, because he just needs more time to build up a sizable force. Crypt Lord, by the way, I'm not even sure where that guy's currently hanging out. I mean... It's just all over the place right now, really. It's just all over the place. And only now does the altar get rebuilt, by the way. I mean, the Great Wall has a nice move here to distract and divert, but is it going to be enough, though? Let's see. Crypt Lord actually here in the bottom now with the Zeppelin play. So he sends one half of his force into the main. The others are slaughtering those peasants at the expansion. Next to some footmen as well. And, you know, the Crypt Lord slowly but surely getting to that level 5. And I love how he had a bird beetle there for Vision 2. So good. Now he needs to run away, though. The Blizzard and the Mountain King are hitting hard. Now he needs to be careful that the Crypt Lord is not falling. Level 5 coming into the mix now. Use the mana pot to keep that stun going. He does go for level 3 beetles, by the way. I thought we would maybe see Impale 3. Because right now, the human player is just going to dismantle the beetles anyway and just dispel them with priests. Yeah, really cool. We see kills left, right, and center. Needs to be careful not to damage his own Mountain King with a Blizzard too much. Now, the Great Wall retreats. and needs to wait a little bit longer. Let's actually take a look into the Undead base. Man, the Shredder, by the way, putting so much work in right now. We have a Slaughterhouse in the mix, double crypt still, a couple of Gargoyles are being produced, and the harassment won't stop. It is very uncommon for Undead players to see them, you know, this proactive on the map and just really try to harass the economy over and over and over again. Normally, that's something that Undead players have to feel on their own bodies because humans like to do that, or Orcs like to do that with a Raider run by. So it's kind of cool to see this change of gameplay dynamics. But the Mountain King, I'm starting to get really worried for the Great Wall. This Mountain King with big mana and greater healing just looks like he's about to go out of control. Look at one Stormbolt just takes out a Gargoyle altogether, almost single-handedly. And true, there was a lot of harassment being done. True, workers have died both in the main and the expansion of ThorZaIN. But he's lost so many units. This Mountain King, this Archmage, almost level 6. Mass TP is going to shut down any form of harass, really. Because of the Archmage just being superiorly mobile. And now we see Banshees coming into the mix too. Banshees, statues, Gargoyles. What sorcery is this? I love it. I absolutely do love it. Creeping-wise, I think this red camp is still to be taken. So that might be a point of contention for both players at some point. But yeah, man, honestly, despite him trading favorably in terms of how many units were killed, ThorZaIN doesn't have that big of a force. I think he's now really investing a lot of resources into building towers. And even with 2 base, if you're forced to build 6, 7, 8 towers all of a sudden, this gets quite heavy onto your economy. Look at that level 3 beetle just creeping in. Gargoyles added to the mix now. If he actually flies in there, doesn't pay attention, Stormbolt onto 1, so much damage already. But he gets the towers before they finish, and that is the most important thing, at least 1. This is a heavily fortified base right now, completely unconquerable for ThorZaIN right now. And it looks like we do have mass Gargs. And what is the response by ThorZaIN to all of this? Is it going to be more riflemen? Is it going to be more flying machines? We haven't actually seen a single flying machine. Anti-magic potion here for the Great Wall's Crypt Lord, so he won't take as much damage from potential storm bolts and stuff like that. However, yeah, this is a TP. I have never seen this aggressive Crypt Lord harass into a human's base. It's so out of the ordinary. It's so extraordinary. It's crazy, but it somehow seems to work. He keeps ThorZaIN at bay. The question is, when those two forces collide, can the Undead withstand the pressure? Because right now, I think ThorZaIN's heroes alone are going to be such a force to be reckoned with. The workshop is ready, by the way. Nothing is currently being produced there. In fact, ThorZaIN has a lot of resources at the moment, but he just can't really seem to produce much. So he's reverting. He's basically relying on his heroes right now, trying to get the damage done with them. Double Invis, of course, cast by the Sorceresses. Amazing harass. Has a TP if things go sour, and this is going to be... Oh my goodness. These Acolytes, they're going to scream in pain and agony because they're going to get clapped and blizzard to death. A frosty clap on the Acolytes' cheeks. That is definitely not what you want to have. But, you know, he basically trades TP for this. He cannot escape, right? Can he?
A player's forces are under attack.
He actually escapes. ThorZaIN, the map man, needs to be so careful, though. When there's an undead unit nearby, this could be the end. Shade now following the steps of the human army. Saves, holds onto the TP, has a major greater healing potion in his inventory right now as well. And now we have a Death Knight, of course, in the mix. Lich, triple hero for the undead, but it's relatively puny compared to what the human has, compared to what ThorZaIN has. Huge impale into the expansion. I love the damage being dealt and the telestaff alike. As long as there's no Mountain King nearby, he can do that to his heart's content. But what I was trying to say earlier is, these low-level undead heroes, aren't they just going to get nuked by the Mountain King and destroyed single-handedly? There's no Paladin in the mix. Tier 3 is only now arriving. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a Paladin next to it, though. Well, to be fair, the Paladin is going to be level 1. So the Holy Light won't even hit that hard. And just look at the constant Gargoyle harass. Is there anything bigger coming in the base of the Great Wall? Double Slaughterhouse, maybe transitioning into some A-bombs. The Sacrificial Pit made me dream about Frostworms for a while. And yeah, Gargoyles, you know, you just avoid a direct confrontation. You just take down the unarmored units one by one. The Beetles are a little bit of a distraction. Footmen are now going to die. The Crypt Lord is going to see level 6 here in a bit. There we go. That Footman definitely added to the cause of the Undeads, one way or the other. Not only did he cause the level 6, but oh, he also interrupted the TP. The mass TP, I think, was interrupted there because the priest died. So now he has to use the TP scroll. ThorZaIN, that was some great focus fire coming in from the Great Wall. And now the Archmage is relatively low. So is the Crypt Lord, though, has the Undead Heroes nearby. This is a crazy game right now. We see the Lich with an Orb of Corruption as well coming in, but the Mountain King. I'm so worried about the Great Wall simply because this one young dwarf clapping and storm bolting. But the Great Wall is not even trying to go for a fight. He's trying to demolish and dismantle his opponent on several fronts, you know, sting like a bee. And eventually, if these bee stings accumulate, they will make one a nasty wound. Now we have Banshees coming in. I'm not sure what the upgrades are, so I want to watch this Banshee to pop out of the building real quick. We have Master Banshees. Oh my goodness. Master Banshees coming through. So not only does he have the potential of just stinging ThorZaIN on multiple ends, but also he can just take over units. I mean, it's not like ThorZaIN has a bunch of units left anyways. Only Riflemen, really. And lumber problems now for the human player. And somehow, some way, the Great Wall has done it. He maintains map control here. He's going to get a juicy creep camp. Pretty much the only one left on the map anyways. However, ThorZaIN is close by. Of course, when you have a red camp being the only point of congestion, then you know, oh my goodness, the Lich is so low. Is he going to get clapped to death? I think he will be. Only one more auto attack and down he goes. I'm not even sure if the Ogre Lord punched him to death. But now, this is of course a feisty creep check. However, Undead forces are reinforcing this fight right now. Level 6 Crypt Lord is using his ulti. The Locust Swarm is draining health from all units nearby. The Riflemen are all in trouble. And I think this might be it. The Ogre Lord even adding another Shockwave into the mix. The Death Knight has fallen, so now it's really just the big boys left in battle. Level 6 Crypt Lord against level 5 Mountain King. Still has a greater mana. Still, he's going to Stormbolt and clap to his heart's content. And what can the Gargoyles really do? He's focusing on the priest, which is very good. The paladin has fallen right now as well. It's an absolute bloodbath. This battlefield shall be remembered for the aeons to come. But the Mountain King reigns supreme, still has enough mana to probably take care of it. However, look at this Crypt Lord damage. Nothing to be sneezed at. The Archmage, so in trouble. Gets another Fiend. Really good target prioritization right now. What a bloody battle that was. And the game does not end here. Both players took heavy losses, but ThorZaIN reigns supreme and could now snatch away one of the strongest items on this map. What is it going to be? Collapse the Overlord to death and gets a Cloak of Flames. In this situation, certainly not the best item he could have hoped for, because there's hardly anything left standing in melee range for the Mountain King anyways, so he's likely going to sell it if he needs the money. He actually TPs all across the map to shut down another expansion attempt by the undead opponent. ThorZaIN, that is. So much experience coming in now. Cosmodon, the avatar form, is actually in reach, not too far away any longer. And the Great Wall now has to pick up the sad remains of what he thought was his red camp, his red spot. So Death Knight is back, level 2, picks up some extra mana. Man, these low-level undead heroes, I think, are more of a liability, to be honest. Sure, they're useful, but he needs to be so careful not to lose him to this Mountain King beast over and over again. Look at the Gloves of Haste, by the way. Double gloves. He's going to attack like a dwarven madman. This was 40k, I would probably say like a Slayer even. Alright, here we go. The Great Wall is now adding the Abominations, like we said. Of course, they're pretty good against the Riflemen, but are they good enough against the Mountain King? If ThorZaIN has good micro, which I'm pretty sure he has, then he can just clap the Abominations, do a little bit of, you know, starter stamping, hit and run, and the Riflemen should be safe then. See healing on every hero. Staff of Sanctuary, really good stuff coming in. And now level 3 on the Paladin is going to be so huge. Like the level 2 Holy Light combined with the strong hero nuke already provided by the Mountain King might almost be lights out. However, anti-magic shield, so important. So important. It doesn't block CC effects, mind you, but it prevents a lot of magic damage from getting done onto the squishy undead heroes. This expansion almost running out, by the way. 500 gold left. ThorZaIN has 3,000 gold left, so he could just take his time, you know? He can play this as patiently as he wants to. A little bit of extra XP here. And just wait, you know? He has the time. The Great Wall does not. The Great Wall has not traded very efficiently in terms of units. all game long. And thus, he won't be able to reproduce anytime soon Invisible Rifleman on a scouting mission. The Ranger. I like it. I like it. And yeah, really, it's just the last scraps of creep traces, you know, being now currently taken into the player's hands. You just need the experience so badly. And the Paladin has level 3. That is absolutely huge and fantastic. And look at ThorZaIN. He's just guarding this gold mine because he knows that if this one goes up, the game is over. Right now, he can just play for time, reinforce his armies even more, and then basically just win the fight with greater numbers. So I think the Great Wall, who looked so cool, who looked so extraordinary and exotic this entire game, now has the ticking clock against him. However, he's building up an expansion here. If this goes to 3 base versus 3 base, all of a sudden, the cards are shuffled anew. However, even if that base goes up for the Great Wall, it's still going to be 1 base versus 2 base in terms of mining bases, of course. Just look at the damage. The Blizzard is huge. The Dispel against the Beetles does so much. And the first A-bomb is to fall. However, the Locust Swarm is coming in once again, and this healing ward cannot be underestimated at all. Nice concave for the Rifleman in the back. Huge stun coming in from the Impale. And are the Undead Heroes actually going to turn this around? Both players with strong front lines right now. The Mountain King so strong. Death Knight level 3 right now. And so much damage by this Locust Swarm. This big boy, aka Crypt Lord, is not going to fall anytime soon. A-bombs have fallen, but so many squishy units. This Crypt Lord is a machine. It's a Terminator right now. He's killing the squishy priest in the back. Coils onto the A-bombs. So good. Of course, with the Plague Cloud, these units take additional damage. And I think the Great Wall has done it. The Psychopath, I love it. Oh my goodness, another coil coming through. And I think this Impale seals the deal, right? That one was a huge one. The Lich is still alive. The anti-magic shell, so huge, preventing all the damage from the Mountain King. I cannot believe it. However, level 6 for the Mountain King has arrived. Cosmodown can be unleashed. The Archmage is still alive. The Paladin is still alive. Can these human heroes actually hold their own against the Undead Fury? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The Crypt Lord. He has a Staff of Teleportation. He's desperately trying to go after the Paladin, who now has, of course, Divine Shield ready. And the main hero of the Undead is going to fall with a stun. Oh, is he? Oh my god. A last-second escape for both players being forced to use their TPs. Are you kidding me? I thought this was going to be the end of the game, but boy was I wrong. And as I said earlier when the video started, I love to be wrong. I love to be wrong in videos like these because that means that good stuff is about to happen. We see the old classic trifecta, Archmage, Paladin, Mountain King. How often have these combatants fought side by side? But can they do it again? The Undead Heroes are out of mana. Ankh of Reincarnation on the DK. So it's now literally heroes only against heroes only, both trying to really just destroy each other's workers' income. But this base makes all the difference in my opinion. The fact that ThorZaIN is still mining on at least 1 base with decent reserves could make all the difference. And I think ThorZaIN is now trying to establish another position here with a scouting tower, executes that Acolyte, and once again also the Brilliance Aura. While the Great Wall's heroes are completely dry, well, not completely dry, obviously. The Lich has means of restoring mana, but for the Crypt Lord, it doesn't look so good. The Death Knight is slowly regenerating with the statues, actually. This is now turning out to be a race for mana, too. Didn't actually see those statues, so that was definitely a good job and a good addition by him. So I don't know who's going to win it. The next engage could potentially decide everything. I like the addition of Knights. I think he really needs units that last a little bit longer. Priest, so important still to dispel the Beetles. The Beetles actually at this point with almost 500 HP and almost 30 damage are quite the force to be reckoned with. Oh my goodness, the Nova hits against the Rifleman. The human army is exposed. He is going to get those 2 Riflemen indeed. Do you see the damage on 1 Impale? That's actually insanity. And all of a sudden, ThorZaIN gets caught where he doesn't want to be caught. Pants down. Is it going to be enough, though? This Mountain King is an absolute beast. For Cosmodown is ready. Avatar is ready in theory. He doesn't have enough mana. I think he's trying to force more claps and more Stormbolts out. But I think this looks... Oh my goodness, the Lich is going to get nuked down, and 1 hero for the Great Wall is now gone. One of the main DPS sources because of the Orb of Corruption, actually. This was a huge takedown for ThorZaIN, who now needs to be careful. Archmage naked, has no protection items. But the Paladin has so much mana still left. So huge. And the Mountain King, I think, is going to solve it all by himself. Morphs a Destroyer in. Last second, that thing is going to fall, though. Paladin now being the focus target. I like that. Has an invul, though. Is the Great Wall going to get baited into this? DK protecting himself. Paladin protecting himself. And now the heals are making all the difference. And the Undead player, he taps out in what was a valiant effort and a great try to dismantle the Swedish powerhouse ThorZaIN. A very creative style. And I think it caused more problems to ThorZaIN than he would have expected necessarily. So, a very hard playstyle to also maintain for such a long time by the Great Wall. You know, operating on multiple fronts, controlling one group over there to harass the main, the other one on the main, sorry, on the expansion. So that was probably one of the coolest replays we've had in the entire Kendric Series show. And I would like to say thank you to Rekram for forwarding this replay over, man. He's the master of replay. He always provides me with the good stuff. The replay dealer, Rekram, I appreciate it. And I appreciate your attention as well, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to spread the word and subscribe on this, or subscribe to this channel on YouTube, Heroes Hearth Warcraft 3. They really do a lot for the community. They just support me on my journey to Warcraft 3, you know. So thank you very much to everybody watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.